Guys, welcome back to Quick Notes with the Croissant. Today we're going to be talking about the book Indistractable by Exal. It's a really interesting book. It really talks about understanding that you're either focused or you're distracted, and the two mindsets that you can necessarily be in to ensure that you're always constantly focused towards achieving whatever it is that you're looking towards accomplishing. Being indistractable is about learning to change, mastering the feelings of distraction. See, so many times there's levels of dissatisfaction that you have with yourself if you ever understand how procrastination works, and basically you find yourself into circles and ruts of routines of the wrong ones that you're not looking towards establishing. If you're a type of person who struggles with procrastination fundamentally and it's a consistent part of your day that's making you stop being able to move towards being a more productive lifestyle, then this is definitely a book that I should look towards. I would suggest looking towards getting into, reading, and definitely breaking down and applying some of the habits that it talks about. It allows you to essentially master a focused mindset, and a focused mindset is a person that's able to be disciplined and achieve the goals and things that he sets out to achieve. See, mastering internal triggers, that's normally how the book talks about, mastering internal triggers. An internal trigger basically means an urge. Whenever you have an urge to do something that you know you're not supposed to. Now, part of the book basically have to be having common sense. You need to be able to understand the difference between what it is of the distractions that are going to cause you and the things that are going to allow you to focus on the goals that you're looking towards achieving, and being able to discern the difference between the two. I always talk about being able to put things into two categories: stuff that's important and urgent, basically productive, that are working towards your active goals, that are either short-term, medium, or long-term, and everything else that are unproductive, distracted, unfocused. Anything. Those are the two categories that it can go into. So pretty much important and urgent, and then unproductive. And those are basically the way that you need to look at it. And once you understand those two things, you need to start putting your life into the categories of those two. See, living the great life requires not necessarily doing the great consistent things every single day, but it's also avoiding the wrong, inconsistent things, the stuff that you don't want to do. Those are almost more important, because if you can mitigate doing the negative, inconsistent, wrong things that you're doing towards your learning, then by default you're forced to do productive activities that are going to bring you closer towards whatever it is that you're looking towards achieve. Going back to that, mastering your internal habits and your internal triggers. So no matter what, you get urges, especially designed around your bad habits, whether it's drinking, whether it's entertainment, whether it's going out, all these different things, stuff that is essentially unproductive towards your goal or your work. You have triggers. Now, the first thing that you need to do is understand what your triggers are. For example, if your entertainment one is that when you lay down in bed before going to sleep, you naturally look towards going on Netflix. Or if you understand that when it is Friday night, you have a certain amount of friends that hit you up to go out drinking. There are always triggers inside. Urges don't necessarily come out of nothing, but they can come from a lack of thought. In other words, keeping yourself active or understanding when certain times occur that are going to cause these triggers for these urges are definitely time periods that you should utilize and legitimately map out. Understand when the times are coming up during the week or during the minutes of the day that are going to affect you. Once you understand that, then you can plan accordingly. Then the next part is to essentially master that. So don't let these urges control you. There's a famous quote that basically says, a boy is controlled by his urges, a man is controlled by his disciplines. So this is where it starts to become tough, because of course everybody wants to just be able to flip the switch and learn how to do it and essentially just change the mindset. Now, very few people are able to do that. The majority have to essentially have a routine schedule, which brings you to the next point in order to no longer be distracted, and is make time for your traction. Traction means your friction, your momentum towards getting better. So essentially, exactly what I'm talking about. So master your internal trigger. Understand what your triggers are. Understand when your urges occur. Next thing is schedule out your day. Make time for the productive time in those urges periods. Like if it's Friday night and you know your friends are going to hit you up, assure that you have something scheduled so that your mind isn't on what you're missing out on. If you know that every single time you go to bed, you're wasting time on Netflix and you're not getting a good night's sleep, make sure that you're not going to bed until you're legitimately tired. It's always better to fall asleep tired than bored. Okay, so these are essentially scheduling out your day, but more importantly, making sure you schedule in the productivity parts, the stuff that's going to ensure that you're getting closer towards your goal rather than you being distracted. Just a person with a schedule then always has to be on time, and every task that is now important also becomes urgent because there's deadlines attached. Next thing is that hack back your external triggers. This one is essentially anchoring your physical environment. So you can anchor your environment through your association. I always talk about if you're looking towards cutting an alcohol habit, a very simple way to cut an alcohol habit is, of course, stay away from alcohol. If you don't want it in your house, you don't want to buy it, you don't want to put it in your fridge, in your cupboard, wherever it is that you keep it, don't buy it. Keep it at home. So many people think that they can control their response to stimuli more so than their environment that causes and creates the stimuli. For example, my response towards ice cream in my fridge at night is gobble gobble. I eat it. That's what happens. 3 a.m. I'm healthy the entire day. It comes 3 a.m. and all of a sudden I'm in there and I'm just eating the entire thing. I have no control over myself. But what I can control is when I'm at the shops and I'm putting ice cream in my shopping cart. I can decide and have a far better control of my response there than I do when I get the urge. So it's about anchoring your environment in that regard. So if you're a person who struggles with social media, delete the apps, downgrade your iPhone, get rid of Netflix. Ensure that you can only use your phone in certain times and spaces to make sure that that activity, that unproductive activity, is restricted to certain areas to ensure that you don't indulge and fall yourself falling into these bad habits, reforming them and relapsing. Now the second part is also through your environment. So hack back your external triggers. If you know that your friends are getting you to do certain activities or certain bad urges and triggers that you don't necessarily want to do, look towards politely distancing yourself from those people. Now, I'm not saying cut them out of your life, but what I am saying is that you have to reevaluate the type of person that you want to be. If you're an individual who's addicted to alcohol, and you can be honest with yourself and admit that, look towards your friends. Are they also alcoholics? Chances are that they have a problem too. So there's two ways that you can talk about this. Now, this one basically comes from preventing your distraction with PAC. So this sort of coincides with 3 and 4. So let's just focus on 3 first. Look towards distancing yourself from these people. If you understand that Friday, Saturday nights, they're hitting you up to drink, occupy your time to ensure that you're not going to be doing these certain aspects. And don't put yourself in a situation where you can be put into that urge, where you do fall into the trap of essentially relapsing. The next thing is that talks about number 4. Prevent distraction with PAC. So the first one is an effort pact. So this is one that you literally have to do with yourself. You have to essentially understand that these are the efforts that you're going to put in, utilizing your schedule and everything before. It's when everything becomes redundant if you're not committing to yourself and having integrity that you're going to follow through with the things that you're setting out. Now, I understand relapses will happen, but it's about bouncing back from those as well. The next one is a price pact. I love this one. This is putting consequences on when you relapse. The consequence needs to be worse than the good feeling of relapsing. So for example, if you legitimately are an alcoholic and you're someone who's so struggling, you could do something like anything that you might find that is incredibly humiliating. Whatever that, like, humiliation is something that's it's painless, it's price free, and it's cheap. Or another one that the book talks about is maybe having a deal with your wife that every time you do relapse, you're going to give her $1,000. Something like that. These are essentially consequences and prices that you have to pay to ensure that even though you are indulging, you didn't get it for free. There is a consequence to that behavior. Now, you need to basically make sure that you follow through with it so that you understand that you are essentially being punished. But don't fall into the trap of making it a consequence where it's more of a means of exchange, where you're literally paying this forward knowing that you're going to be able to indulge. It should be something that you definitely do not want to do. And whatever that level is, I would suggest that it's something that's not necessarily financially binding, something that's cheap, easy to do, and it can be done instantly. That way, it's not something that's delayed, it's straight away. So think of something that you might dread, something you might not necessarily like. The next thing is that having an identity pact. This is essentially understanding the self-image and the person that you want to become. Monitor it across a year's time, a month's time, a week's time. Write down the character traits that you want to cut out, the person that you want to be by the end of it, and you can an easy way to basically determine this is if you're running a business, the traits of an ideal employee. Write down the traits of an ideal employee. If you recognize that you don't have them yourself, that's the person that you should be aiming towards becoming. Or the traits that you'd want your son or your daughter passing on to your child, those are the traits that you literally want to look towards emulate in order to help understand what it is that you're working toward. If you start to apply all these different aspects of the book that it's talking about, I have no doubt that you'll be able to limit your distractions and focus up on the productive work, looking towards becoming more successful a lot faster rather than sooner. Well, guys, in order to summarize the full book, what you can do right now is understand what is your daily schedule. Figure out and work backwards from what it is that you've done in the past 7 days. What are the activities that you've done on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? What were the productive ones? What were the unproductive ones? And be brutally honest with yourself. Just because you feel a downtime or deserving, it is still unproductive. Because the truth is, you don't necessarily need it. You can function by being 100% productive about 18 hours a day and 6 hours worth of sleep, and give or take that time period depending on how you are. Anyways, guys, that's it for Quick Notes with Chris on. Thanks for listening. I highly suggest you don't stop there. Look at the other videos that we have on the channel. Keep striving for a better improvement, putting yourself in a better position for success. If you like what we're talking about, what we're doing, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and share with someone if you think that it might be able to help you. Anyways, guys, I should be uploading a few more other videos this week and tonight, so I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks!